How do they even see all of this? Does government actually see this line of thought such that they can actually just do what they need to do?
Yeah, the government, they have the information. But what they do with the information they have is another thing. Now, they said that the economy is growing, but it's a jobless growth, which is no growth. A growth without development, without job, is no growth. Now, part of the reason why the economy seems to be growing is the price of oil. So when the price of oil goes up, and you know that oil constitutes a major part of the business, about 16% to the GDP, and revenue-wise is 80 to 95%, depends on what figures is released. So you find that though they have all this, but they should understand exactly what sector are we going to focus on. Is it a job creation kind of thing? General. We need to focus on which aspect of the economy is important. We need to focus on raw material base. We need to get right to industrial base. Like if you have factories that, for instance, the element petrochemicals. Petrochemical companies provide a whole lot of this thing for the resins for the plastic industry. And you can use a whole lot of that. So they can have this raw material. A recent report showed that $1.3 billion was saved on import for this raw material substitute. Rather than import this money, import this product, it's being done in element petrochemical. They can focus on that. So Nigeria should focus on how do we become original equipment manufacturers, and that is the industrial base of any nation. Unless we do that, we are just skimming the surface. So we need to get to the base, build industries that will act as raw material base for the economy.
I'm quite excited we're talking about this now, because it's a big issue to the extent that we now have a national committee on job creation. They have a website, and all of this you're talking about now, we thought by now that particular committee, which was put in place by the Minister for Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, should have started by now. But when you go to the website, it gives you more lamentations about the unemployment rate, and what comes close to it is, if you have any suggestions as to how they can help create more jobs, you should bring them on. And I'm quite sure that is what you're doing on this platform. But again, if you look at it now, they say another problem, according to the National Committee on Job Creation, that the unemployment also has a gender face. That next to the youth, women follows in the job deficit.
That's right.
So how does all of that come into all of this picture so that we can now know what exactly we're aiming to do? Now, they talk about the youth, they're also talking about the women. So if we separate the women from those we call the youth, which they say already 12 million of them are unemployed, that is alarming.
Yes, and again, the culture issue, in the gender side of it. For instance, I remember some time ago, a lady running a business could not access funds in the bank without her husband's consent. Yes, and it's quite unfortunate. And in 1996, 33% of all businesses, over 200,000 businesses set up in the U.S. were by women. 33% of that. So women are coming in. Okay, and in Nigeria, it's beginning to, you have WIMBs, women getting together to do all this, because they are really more affected by all of this. Access to funds, yes, even in export. You find that women are being harassed in different ways. So they need to, they need to be protected. They need to have access to finance. There shouldn't be any discrimination, because these women are creating jobs, and they will. And even when they borrow this money, they have a greater tendency to pay back than the men. Yes, study has shown that, yes, because they will not use it to marry more husbands. It's the man that marries more wives. That kind of a thing.
Well, I think it will depend on the culture. If it's a culture where the women marry their husbands, who knows?
Yeah.
But, they're taking a critical look at this new initiative. Much as, yes, we're happy that the government is taking steps, I'm a bit skeptical. I mean, do we really think that setting aside 50 billion naira to encourage entrepreneurship on the platform of a competition Is that healthy?
No, it's not. And the emphasis, yeah, business plan is good. Having a business plan is good because that is what we insist, because you have to bring out your ideas on paper and it helps you to be clear and all that. But the thing is, again, is focusing on that. It's not help. It's not going to solve the problem. They're creaming the surface. Okay? So the thing is that let's get back to the fundamentals.
Because, you already made a valid point. You said government really has no business in creating jobs.
At all.
Government has its business in providing the right environment.
Yes.
We believe that there are 1,001 entrepreneurs out there waiting to come up if they have the right environment.
That's right.
Big businesses moving from Nigeria to other neighboring countries.
Yes.
Are we working, or can you say a simultaneous step with encouraging innovation at the same time creating the right environment? Is that what you see here?
No, I don't see that. Let's take, for instance, government said, okay, they're giving 50 billion. This 50 billion will go into generating power. This 50 billion will go into borrowing, high interest rate. For instance, central bank just increased their interest. It's not good for business. Now, borrowing moving from 18% to a neighborhood of between 25 and 30%, depending on the bank you're dealing with. So who is going to borrow money at the rate of 25% or 28% or 30% to do business? How much is the profit? Okay? Now, the banks are now going to trading. They will not invest this money in a productive sector. They will finance them because they need to get their money back, financing imports. Okay? So it's China that is benefiting from high interest rate here. Is Dubai and all these places where they bring in goods, they're benefiting.
What about the agricultural sector? Because they did say that, what he wants to do, that's the president now, was to make access to credit available to people, just amend the act a little bit such that, they have a longer time with which to repay back some of those.
Agriculture, I always say that during the political time when I had a plan for Ebonyi State, was to, make agriculture more lucrative. And my plan is, guarantee farmers that no matter what they produce, that government or agency, that they have a market for it.
How do you guarantee you create that market?
You create the market. You create the market. For instance, take rice. Now, the value chain of rice is so long. You can use rice, produce rice, and use even the rice husk to generate power. Do you understand that? I talked to some experts from UNIDO. Okay? And, that was the plan. I had to create job for the people. And then when you do that, in every local government, I went to Sweden, the small medium enterprise development agency in Abuja. And I saw a study that they did. And I hope the government is carrying them along in this 50 billion thing. That in every local government, all the 744 local government in the country, you will find at least 2 products. You will build a cluster of industries around in every local government. And God has been so magnanimous to us that in every community you find resources you can harness to sustain that community.
Because, sorry to butt in here, because
Yes.
this is very key. Yesterday we were discussing, Chamberlain and I, we were talking, we're trying to look at how we got to the stage we are in. You just talked about some kind of cottage industries and all that.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, look at how it all started. It was so beautiful and fantastic. Once we had Leventis, we had Kingsway, we had Pan, Peugeot Automobile, Nigeria. We had loads and loads of all of them, but today they all fizzled out, as Mark very rightly said. Even to the extent that those industries of today, of now, some of them are in the process of even leaving. So how did we get here so that the government can identify why some of them have actually gone under, while some of them have migrated out of the country, so that we can now say, by the time we put in place some form of facility to create more jobs for the people, we won't be repeating history.
Yeah, and again, you find that, just to add that, what you said, you find that somebody bought over Volkswagen. And what do they sell there? Rice.
Oh dear.
Imported rice. A car manufacturing or assembly plant, what is being sold there is. Because the one thing is this, leadership that is not interested in business, that is not committed at heart to help the people, will run out of ideas on what to do. And that's what we have seen. Our leaders have no interest. Our leaders in the past have no interest in doing anything that will benefit the common man on the street. Job creation, to me, is just, I don't see any fundamental thing being done to do that. Look at in the 60s, all the regions were allowed to run their affairs, and there was this healthy competition. The Eastern Bloc saw that the West were doing good, and majority of the industries we have today were set up by then.
Education, for instance.
Education.
It was very healthy competition.
Yes. So you find that creating jobs without the right education is not just giving 50 billion. We need to get back to our education system. Our universities, what courses are we offering? Our secondary school, what subjects are we offering?